working on the car, still combing through the tiny little stuff. It's been boring, so I haven't been doing a lot of filming. Mike actually just torqued down the rear end bolts, so we hadn't got them done yet. The load bolts for that aftermarket case I got. Anyway, just knocked that off the checklist real fast. Figured it's a good thing to go ahead and do it. It didn't take but maybe 10 minutes to do. Working on the throttle cable inside the car. You know, we had the issue on the inside with it wanting to cut through that. We fixed the inside pretty much, but we still have the same issue under the hood. We also went ahead and stopped it from popping out. So let me show you how it just dawned on us this morning and we fixed that. So starting out in here, all we did was literally just move the linkage up like that so that it touches, okay? It literally touches the end of the cable. So we kind of just did it like that, and now it pretty much pulls straight out. It's still a little bit on the bottom. I need to probably, let's see here. No, I just got to loosen that up. That's a little tight right now. I need to loosen that up so that pivots, but that's gonna work perfect because it's a lot straighter in line. So I've got that little clevis too tight, that's all that is. Once that rotates, it'll be good. This down here, we changed this up. You can see that the cable is, it's got slack in it, but it's pushing its limits of how tight it can be. So we made changes to this. Of course, whenever you change in there, then that made us more cable here. So we had to change our stops. And this was, these little cable ends I had a hard time finding. So, I mean, you could order them online, but it's like every time I look local, I had a hard time finding them. Picked them up at a little old school part store. Dorman 03336 is the part number if you ever need to order them or get them the little universal kit of cable stops. So we had to do some drilling, grinding, and all that, but we fixed that issue. Also, the end of the you know, the piece right here on the throttle body, I have that now where that opens all the way and has clearance. So it just touches right there, but I mean that throttle body is not opening no more than that. So no more cable popping off. This is still at a bad angle. We bent this bracket up a little bit more, but it's still just at a bad angle. So I have that longer cable, but we're not gonna mess with that right now. Here's that longer cable, it's 8 foot. But the issues, we're gonna have to change that to that style in the other video that I put up from L&M Tuning, where it hooks to this piece right here, and then we'll have to build brackets off of this and make that cable come under the throttle body and go straight in a line and straight in line with that. So it's just pulling that pretty much straight back, not down. Because in order to get this where it's not going to drag on that inner cable sleeve right there, is you would need to tilt this thing way more up, and I don't have the link to the cable right now, and then you probably have this funky looking thing like that. So we'll mess with that later. This will be perfectly fine for one day of, you know, 5 dyno pulls or whatever, 3 dyno pulls, whatever he decides to do. But that's a big improvement from where it was at. So a couple more items off the checklist done, and I got the whole bottom side of the car buttoned up this morning. All right, so it is Wednesday morning, so we got a little bit to do. It seems like we got the checklist down to like nothing, and then it started creeping back up and then down and then back up. So we're gonna finish up the final stuff today. We're still looking good for TKM. It's going in the trailer today. Just texting Mike, he welded up the fan shroud last night, so we are gonna weld up the tabs on the radiator. I got the radiator back yesterday, and then we are going to get it in the car. So let me show y'all something cool real fast though. Check this out. Street car stuff, baby. So we got tags and registration yesterday on the car because it's not a race car, it's a street car. And yeah, so went ahead and done that, got that knocked out. So we're just coming down the checklist. So little things. The radiator, little disappointed in how this situation went. So me and Mike did not want to try to do it. I was going to try it with solder, but I decided that, you know, you get mixed reviews when you look on online. Some people say soldering it's perfectly fine. Some people say don't solder it, that, you know, it can cause issues. Mike said that if you solder a radiator and the radiator gets to a certain temperature, you know, you can actually melt the solder back off. I don't know the temperature. He didn't tell me the temperature. I don't know, maybe y'all can give us your feedback. I know some of y'all said that, you know, you can solder it, and like I said, it's just mixed reviews all across the internet. I know they make an actual kit with rods, like aluminum rods that work like soldering, so you melt it with a torch and you can patch radiators like that, and I have seen very good results online with that. So that's like 90 bucks for that kit. I'm definitely going to be ordering that kit here within the next week or so because of all of this stuff. So after I seen it, I figured this is really good for us doing salvages and, you know, repairing wrecked vehicles. Sometimes we'll get a radiator, it's just busting in one little spot in a row, and we'll replace the whole thing over it. So I think that's an excellent way for us to save some money on the business aspect of stuff, and it would just be good to have around for situations like this. But so I'll drop it off with a small shop in Wilmington. I'm not gonna say the shop's name, I don't want to do that. The place was extremely red flags, but I had no choice. It's like the only place in town that was popping up on Google that does radiator repairs. But I mean, it was just, you can tell normally when a business is just an absolute mess, and it looks like it's out of the 50s, that it hasn't been cleaned since the 60s. You okay? You following me here? So I said, well, hopefully we'll get good results. So I dropped it off on, what was that, Monday, and the first red flag was the mechanic had stepped out to take a customer back to wherever they come from. No high-end shop works like that. Normally no high-end shop, the owner mechanic steps out to give people a ride like they're an Uber. So that's a huge red flag to me as a business owner. But like I said, it is what it is. Anyways, so I got no phone call from them. He was supposed to look at it when he come back. I got nothing. I called yesterday around lunch. I was like, hey, check and see if the radiator's done, because if not, I was going to go pick it up and we were just going to solder it or whatever. And the lady was like, oh yeah, he just finished it up. I was like, okay, what's the total on it? $125 plus tax. I was like, wow. I was like, okay. Y'all seen the video. If you didn't, go back and watch the video from Weekend's Progress. I put a little tiny pinhole in it. The radiator's had water in it for now 2 or 3 weeks, so I know that it was not dripping, period, on the floor in the garage. We've went over the leaks, we've talked them to death, and as soon as I messed it up with that fan shroud, I seen where it was dripping from. I showed y'all on camera where it was dripping from. So she was like, yeah, I'm sorry, he found more spots that were leaking, so he found a total of 3 spots, and he had to patch them also. I'm thinking, man, they got me, dude. They got me. They seen me coming. I had the radiator with AM fittings on it. Told her it's for a race car. They're probably like, this dude's got disposable income. You know, they got me. I mean, I can't say nothing else. So he claims that it had little tiny pinholes, that under pressure it was leaking. I can't disprove that. I cannot sit here and call him a liar, because we never really had the radiator under pressure, but it's had water in it, like I said, for 2 or 3 weeks. So the pinhole that I put in it was really, really small. We're talking about the size of a needle, probably that you put in your arm to get, like, you know, at the doctor. But I mean, it was really, really small, and it was just dripping. You know, like, I mean, it was steady dripping, and so I feel like if there was a pinhole anywhere else, it would have dripped. I've also ran the water pump, circulated water for, it was like 2 or 3 minutes to make sure that there was no air in the system, and just make sure it worked and make sure it wasn't going to overheat. You know, I just ran it for like 2 or 3 minutes in the garage. No water on the floor, nothing, until I damaged it. So let me flip the camera around and show you real fast. So the spot that we damaged is right here. So I don't know what this is. Actually, y'all can tell me. I'm seeing it now right here in front of the camera. This looks like spray paint. This looks like silver spray paint over top of epoxy. So that is kind of irritating within itself, because that's not welded. That's just poured a glob of epoxy over it. So maybe y'all can fill me in. This was a radiator repair shop. Maybe y'all can let me know what he probably used. That's what it looks like. It looks like epoxy to me, because it's definitely not silver, because the silver is scratching all off of it. And now that I think about it, on my sensor right here, on my low dollar pressure sensor, I don't know if this is corrosion where he put this whole thing in a freaking tank, or if this is spray paint that got all over it. So it was all over the plastic part, but I didn't really see much on the body. I don't know. Hopefully he didn't tear my sensor up too. Then he claims that this weld right here, he says that it had a pinhole in it, that it was leaking under pressure. Now, the way he said it, whenever they made that radiator, he said where they stopped their weld at, he's like, there was actually a pinhole leak in there that was leaking also. And I was like, well, there is no they. I was like, we built that radiator. We welded it all up. And cool, I didn't know. He was like, oh, yeah, well, there was like, yeah, it was leaking. You can tell it kind of caught him off guard. He didn't expect that we built it. And I was like, yeah, that was a blank radiator. We did all the fittings, all of the bungs, you know, we did everything in it. So Mike said that when he welded it, that obviously Mike's not an idiot. Y'all have followed Mike on the channel now for quite a few videos, you know. And we're not the greatest. We're self-taught, but Mike does pretty solid work. So Mike said, and you welders might understand, is that something about the way that when he welds something like this, when he gets to the end, he actually kind of backs off or something and like lets it puddle over to make sure that there's no like error or pinhole or something. Anyway, Mike is perfectly aware of what stopping the weld can create an issue. So he's perfectly aware of that. And so therefore he tries to avoid it. So again, I cannot prove that they're lying. They might be telling the truth. You know, I'm sitting here telling you they might be telling the truth. I just feel like I got got for $125 is what I feel like. So he claimed that that was the problem, and then he claimed this spot was the problem. Now this spot right here, I mean, this work just looks absolutely terrible to me. I mean, I just would never turn out nothing like this. For a customer, I would have probably went and, you know, soldered over it or took some of that other kit that I'm talking about that has like the aluminum welding rods that you use a torch and kind of just did a little bit. I don't know. This, to me, in my opinion, this just looks messy. But maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. You know, I'm not saying that I'm necessarily 100% right. I just think that looks a little messy. So what this was right here was, it was basically like this. Okay, you see how these fins are laid over? It's because I bumped something. But I bumped these a little heavier, but I know that my row was perfectly fine. There was absolutely nothing wrong with my row. So because of my experience doing salvage cars that are hit in the front, we do, you know, 150, 200 a year, I'm very, very, very familiar with checking my rows to make sure that they're not damaged. I feel like he's seen that the fins were bent over, and he was like, I'm going to go ahead and claim that there was a leak there. I'm going to drop a little bit of stuff on it, and then that way I can charge him I can get him for 3 spots. So a lot of times I've went over this on other videos, you know, how the shops take advantage of you. I actually have a video out where I actually busted a local shop in Wilmington. I can't remember the name of it. I'm pretty sure if you just scroll back in the playlist, like reviews or highlights, or probably random projects to help others, it's probably gonna be reviews or highlights. There's a video entitled like "Don't Let Shops Take Advantage of You." You know, here's how or something. And we go over quite a cool things where I busted a local shop that was just straight up lying to get money. And sadly, here in Wilmington, I'm sure it's probably all over the place, but we have a lot of shops like that around here. A ton of them that lie and make stuff up, and I have to deal with them every single week with the salvages. When a customer comes and looks at a salvage and they go take it to their mechanic. So sadly, that's the type of businesses that are here in Wilmington, North Carolina. It's a bunch of grimy businesses that would rather, you know, take people's money, hit you a little heavier on each job than have to actually work for their dollars. So, but that's where we're at this morning. Hopefully the radiator don't leak. The positive side is that you can't replace this radiator for $125. So by the time you buy the blank, and then by the time you buy all the AN fittings, and then of course Mike welds for me for free, kind of, then I have to paint stuff for him, but by the time you put all the fittings in there and the time and everything, the $125 is kind of worth it. I just wish that he would have been, you know, I feel like there was only one leak. I really honestly do, since, you know, I'm the one that built this radiator from scratch, and it's been sitting in my very clean garage with no water on the floor at all. I would have rather just been like, it's $125 for one leak than making up that a bunch of other ones leaking. So that's where we're at. We're gonna put the fan together this morning, get all the radiator stuff, and then we're gonna get done, and then continue down this checklist of little tiny stuff that I'm not gonna bore y'all with, and then we're gonna get this thing loaded up today, Wednesday, and Thursday morning we're gonna be getting some biscuits and hash browns and hitting the road, y'all. So let's ride. So you see all the white stuff right there? Like, that's all out of this radiator. So Mike just got here and we were about to weld the tabs on it, and we got to looking at it closer, and it had little like white specks of like dirt, it looked like, all inside the fins. And so I'm pretty sure this dude, that's the reason why I told Mike, I was like, yeah, it just feels really nasty and slimy and it stinks like a dirty old coolant. And Mike was like, dude, he put it in the dunk tank, I guess, to pressure test it instead of pressure testing it on a bench, and now it's just like slimy and covered in old coolant. So we're trying to wash it all out, but now that makes sense. I guarantee you that he dunked this whole thing with this low dollar sensor on here and did not take this thing off, and that's the reason why this sensor was covered in all that white stuff all over it, and it wasn't spray paint. I bet, I guarantee you that it's the same crap that was inside all of these fins. You can just about, you can't hardly see it, but trying to just flush it out. And I guess I'm gonna flush the inside of this radiator out, because this radiator has never seen coolant. It's only seen distilled water, and it will never see coolant. It'll just see distilled water and that coolant additive.
And also, they put this epoxy on here. If this thing doesn't hold and we had to clean that stuff off to re-weld something, it's gonna be a nightmare getting that stuff off.
Yeah, because
to actually get to the weld and weld it.
Yeah, I mean, because anybody that welds knows that, you know, you got obviously prep. I mean, I joke around about it a lot, but I do know you got to prep. So if that ever, yeah, I mean, you just created a nightmare with that epoxy. So realistically, if that ever needed to be changed or something, I mean, you'd be better just to plug it and go somewhere else.
Or if the epoxy just lets loose.
If the epoxy lets loose, then
if it lets loose and starts leaking something,
you better cut the friggin' end of the cap off and just put aluminum on.
You'd have to cut this whole thing out, because you'd probably never get it down underneath here very well, clean it all out very well.
Yeah, I definitely got bent over, I feel like, on this gig. That's the reason why you do stuff yourself. Right, so here's what we have come up with for the pedal stop, and I'll actually show you all this in the vehicle. But what I have done is come through the side of the pedal, just drilled 2 holes, through bolted it. It's gonna nut cert it, but the problem with nut certs is you have to actually drill the hole bigger than the size of the bolt, and so that's gonna weaken everything. I was gonna put the nut cert in this side, but like I said, I just decided against it. Figured through bolts with lock nuts, I like this a little better. So I don't have my nut cert kit here. Well, I have the nut cert, but it's for the little tiny ones that we're going to need to do the radiator fan. So I don't have my whole kit here. So for right now, we are using this Tenderman clip. So y'all should, if you're OG to the channel, you should be proud of me for that terminology that I got right. So the Tenderman clip actually looks clean. So this is off some other car, but it's like, you know, encased in a plastic casing with a nut inside of it. So it probably will just stay, because it actually looks, like I said, pretty freaking clean. So what we're going to do is Tenderman clip. These are out of the Ford Freestyle. So on your Ford Freestyle, my parts car out back, we're putting this one together off of a bad car. You have hood support. You know, these things turn up and down to adjust the height of your hood to change your gaps right here. So what I've done is went back to the parts car and yanked 2 of these out. We're gonna put this one in the trailer as a spare in case it's ever bent, you know, or damaged. I'll have another spare one, because you don't have to go all the way to the junkyard over this little piece since I already have it. And my parts car out back is gonna get crushed anyway. So if anybody's looking for them, just go to the junkyard, check the, you know, under the hoods. But I think a lot of your Ford vehicles are going to have the metal screw-in ones. Chevrolets use a big rubber like plug that does not have a threaded rod in it. So I have ran a bolt up onto this, and this is going to be a jam nut basically. And then all this is going to screw in from the bottom side like so. And there's your adjustable bump stop off your pedal. So, or your bump stop. I'm thinking suspension on a like Z71 or a pickup truck. Your throttle stop. So I've already checked it in the car. I looked in there, make sure I had enough rod, so it actually is plenty. So I'm gonna get this threaded in there and get this bolted back into the car, and then I'll show you how that works. All right, so that is what we are left with when you take this, let's see here, and you push this down. I don't know if you can see it. It goes down, hits the carpet just like that. So hits the carpet dead on. And like I said, you could take this, and this is adjustable. So I'm gonna fine tune that, make sure I've got the throttle opening all the way, and then we'll move on to the next item. All right, so trying to work on the brakes again, still a little bit, get them better. And So one thing I don't like about Mike, he's over there laughing, is he's a little know-it-all. So check this out. He's always just a little freaking know-it-all. He comes over here and asks me why my calipers are upside down. I was like, I don't know. So yeah, that's...
Why's the bleeder on the bottom? You bleeding all the fluid out?
I'm bleeding the fluid out, no hair. So that might be an issue why we've had soft brakes this whole time. So we were trying to get the brakes just a little better in case it goes to the dyno, and then we get it home this weekend and go to drive it. I don't have to deal with it. So see, I would have been struggling at the house, which is why it's good to have a second set of eyes on it. So about to yank these wheels off, flip these calipers around, and bleed everything out. All right, so we took a quick little polish over that. As you can see, nothing fancy. It looks like complete crap, but 1500 wet sand, 3000 wet sand, and some Never Dull. Just like I've stated in the past, if you put more time into polishing, you can make it like a mirror. I don't care about it. I just want it to have a little bit of gloss like that to it, because I don't want to spray paint a fan shroud, you know, and mess up. Mike got our, you know, and then it scratches all up. Mike got our tabs welded on here, so we're about to nutsert them. He just had to put these little tabs on. This is what our fan shroud is going to bolt on. So I'm going to put door edge protector on the side. I'll show you that here in a second. Blah blah blah. Put it on, bolt it on, and I'll show you where we are at. Man, I'm telling you, this stuff has been bugging me and Mike all morning. Every time we see that, man, it pisses me off. We got the brakes fixed, so I don't know how I missed that completely. I have no clue how I missed it. We've got the pedal done, as you've seen, so about to throw the radiator back in her. All right, y'all, so she's in the box. We've been busting tail. Dude, it's 5 o'clock. I never in a million years would have dreamed that I would have worked Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday to 5 o'clock just to get this thing ready how I want it to go to TKM. So hopefully everything goes smooth. I still have to go back out tonight and get a couple items just as precautions for our trip to make sure that hopefully we have the best success as possible. But yeah, hopefully everything goes smooth, and hopefully we can make some good rips, and hopefully we get good results out of it. So y'all make sure you smash that bell button if you haven't already done it, and turn on notifications so you can catch it on the thing, and catch the TKM video whenever it uploads. And I apologize about the not filming a lot this afternoon, but it's just been a ton of kind of to-do lists. So. All right, y'all know I told you that I was done with the E85, that we're switching the car to race gas, and we are, but with the cost of race gas, I'm gonna really still try to hang on to this E85. So what I'm planning on doing is I just grabbed some E85 tonight, and I plan on trying to see if we have time, and if Kevin will, to do 2 tunes. So get us set up for E85, a tune on E85, and a tune on, I think Skinny said X90 is what we're putting in there. Actually, not a X85, it's gonna be an X90, I think. So just went to the gas station, grabbed it. I ordered an E85 tester earlier this week. I noticed I didn't need it, didn't want it, but the cost of fuel and street driving that thing, I'm just not trying to street drive it on race fuel all the time if I can help it. Now, this might not work. It might still end up being too big of a headache, but we're gonna at least take some E85 with us and see if we can get a tune on it. So flip the camera around and see what we got at our local gas station. This stuff actually tests out to, look at that, an E75. So 10% below what it's supposed to be. So that's the reason why, you know, I listened to everybody, and they said you need to test it and make sure you know what you got. So I wanted to go ahead and test this tonight so that I would know, so I could tell Kevin what we got.